He was my rock growing up because I always knew, I'm like, it doesn't matter, Travis is going to be here. So he was a two-sport Division I athlete, which many people don't know. Like communication was very limited. Just sounded so intense on that phone call. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, he was killed. Yeah, April 29th, 2007. If not me, then who? Up, and I'm like, shit, he lived by those 5 words every single day. Like that was his mantra. We have an obligation to live lives worthy of Travis's sacrifice. And like, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it.
Thank you for checking out the Operation Onward podcast. Help us build this veteran community and get the word out. Like, subscribe, share it on all your platforms. Help us beat the algorithm. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Operation Onward, a podcast. Today we are sitting in the studio with my friend, the amazing Ryan Manion, Gold Star sister, founder and CEO of the Travis Manion Foundation, which has been a huge part of my life. Ryan, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So how have you, and we're at Military Influencer Conference 2025. How's your week been?
It's been good. My first time here, so I've never been. I mean, it's definitely been interesting. I didn't really know what to expect. Yeah, there's a lot of, I met a lot of people here that I didn't know of, and they're like big influencers in the military space, and I never even heard of them. I mean, that's not saying much.
You're kind of a big influencer in the military space.
No, I'm not. But, it's just, yeah, I think anything that can bring together this community in a good way is positive, right? Yeah. And so I always say, though, like, what's the big takeaway? Like, we come here, we spend a week here, we're doing panels, we're doing keynotes, we're connecting with each other, but, like, what comes next? And I think that's where you see the real value in things like this, is like what happens after we get on planes and all fly home, right?
Yeah. It's coming together as community. So like I said, Travis Manion Foundation has been a huge part of my life. I think we've known each other for at least 12 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I've been volunteering as a Spartan ambassador for Travis Manion Foundation for over a decade. And absolutely love what you're doing for the veteran community. But I wanted to rewind a bit, and you are Gold Star sister. The foundation is in honor and in the namesake of Travis Manion. Mm-hmm. Could you share a bit about Travis, kind of early life, what motivated him to serve in the Marine Corps, go to the Naval Academy, serve in the Marine Corps, and just a bit about his story?
Sure. So my brother Travis and I were military brats, very quintessential military brats, born in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, on a Marine Corps base. And my dad's a retired colonel, did 30 years in the Marine Corps. And, we spent much of our childhood moving around. So in the first 11 years of my life, I moved 13 times. And my brother and I were 15 months apart. So I think they call it Irish twins. We were very close. And, one of the things that, like, looking back on my childhood now, I was not easily adaptable. I hated moving. I hated starting over again. I hated making new friends. I hated that whole process. And I was, like, so envious of kids that grew up in the same place and could say, oh, me and Katie have been best friends since kindergarten. And I recognized, like, very early on, I would never have that. And that was, like, devastating to me. Now, Travis was the complete opposite. When my dad would come home and be like, we're moving here, he'd be like, that sounds awesome, Dad. Like, he was just, and that really definitely helped me in a lot of ways. And, and I always knew, I may come off very extroverted. I'm not. I call myself an introverted extrovert. Like, I try really hard to be on and be active.
We're kindred spirits.
Yeah. But, like, at the end of the day, I get super uncomfortable in new situations and being around new people. And so, it was, he was my rock growing up because I always knew, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Travis is going to be here, right? Like new school, Travis is going to be here. New sports team, Travis is going to be here. And back in those days, like we were on the same soccer team. We were on the same t-ball team. It was co-ed everything, you know, outside of football. And so like, when I talk about Travis and our relationship growing up, I was the older sibling, but he really was like my older sibling. Like I was always kind of looking to him for guidance and advice. And I recognized really early on that there was something a little different about him and just the way he pushed himself from a very young age, which is not normal. I mean, I've got 3 kids. Like when you start to see someone that has goals and aspirations at a young age, like that wasn't me. And so I was always in awe of my brother. And there was never any like resentment or jealousy. I was just like, he's freaking awesome, you know? And I was perfectly happy to take a back seat to all his success and be his biggest cheerleader. And I was. I went to, you know, he was a 3-sport athlete in high school. He was an All-American in wrestling. He was All-State in lacrosse. Was on a championship football team, and he could have done anything. Like he literally could have gone anywhere. He was a great student. He could have gone anywhere. He could have done anything. And he decided to go to the Naval Academy. Not terribly unsurprising, but my mom always tells this story of like, he had all these applications that he was filling out and he was talking to other schools for wrestling. And my mom ended up finding like a bunch of college applications in his drawer in his bedroom that he claimed he had sent out. So he really only applied to the Naval Academy, which is he had a vision. He had a vision, but like that's a big risk. Yeah. Like you know, chances are not big to get in there. And he did. Something that if you have not read my dad's book that a lot of people don't know is that Travis dropped out of the Naval Academy. And so he went there for freshman year. And it was in the December, you know, going home for Christmas break. I had already done a freshman year. I'm in sophomore year of college. I'm going to college in Philly and I'm having the time of my life. I'm just partying my ass off. Yeah. And I'm calling my brother, and as he's complaining to me, like, oh, this is so tough. I hate it here, blah, blah, blah. I'm literally encouraging him to quit. I'm like, why would you do that? Just like come to school in Philly. We'd have so much fun. And I look back on it now and I'm like, oh my God, you're insane. The fact that it wasn't that I was encouraging him, but I wanted him to be happy, you know? And I'm like, dude, come to college in Philly. And he did. So he left after Christmas and never went back. Like came home and was like, I don't want to go back. And if there's anything I tell you about a service academy, having a daughter at a service academy right now, you can't make someone go to a service academy. Like if they don't want it, they're never going to succeed there. And so my dad, I think, knew that. And he was like, fine, then figure it out. Get a job or go to college. I'm not helping you. So my brother ended up getting into Drexel University. He walked on to the men's lacrosse team, started as a freshman. So he was a 2-sport Division I athlete, which many people don't know. Yeah. And then I think he had that wake up moment, you know, not that he wasn't enjoying himself, but like you can only go on a party bender for so long. Right. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you wake up and say, what am I doing? And he did that. And he ended up telling my dad, I want to go back to Navy. And my dad's like, well, that's never going to happen. But he did. He got back in, and one of my most treasured pieces is in my studio at my house, and it's his readmittance letter, and it says readmitted on this day, and it's got his name and everything, and I have that shit framed because it's just like, wow, you got back in. And he needed to leave and come back in order to become the person he became, right?
I don't think I've ever heard of another story of someone leaving a service academy and actually being reaccepted to the same service academy.
I don't know of anyone else. Of course, I'm sure it's happened, but it's so slim, like so slim, right? Because you're taking essentially a spot from someone who wanted it so bad. So why are they going to take a chance on you?
And you've already kind of shown them that like maybe this is not for him.
Right. Right. But once he got back in, it was just like, go, right? He was just full steam ahead. And, he entered in as the class of 2003. He ended up graduating class of 2004. He had to redo plebe year, which is like,
wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the worst thing about.
It's like boot camp for the service academy.
Yeah. So he ended up, and he was in school during 9/11. And so like, there was never, when he dropped out, it was pre 9/11. When he went back, it was pre 9/11. So nobody was ever kind of thinking about that part of things. Listen, I had a dad who had served close to 20 years at that point. And I think, he got as far as like Kuwait for the Gulf War. Like nothing, I never was scared about my dad's military service. Never in all of his years of serving. And I didn't really understand full military service until September 11th happened.
Right.
And, my brother had friends that had already been killed in Iraq and Afghanistan before he even graduated from college. Guys that were older than him. And so that was like super scary for me and my mom. I don't know so much about my dad, but I was like, whoa, this is going to be, the trajectory of his life is going to be very different than what I imagined it would be. I thought he'd be like a 5 and fly, and then he'd go get a really good finance job in New York or Philly, And I mean, obviously, how everything changed.
Everything changed.
Everything. Yeah. And so he graduated in 2004, and then he was on his first deployment in Iraq in 2005. And I remember that deployment. So when he went through TBS down in Quantico, he was top 10 graduating in his TBS class. And, with that, you think you get a little bit of a better pick in what you want, but the Marine Corps puts you where they want to put you. Yeah. So they ended up putting Travis as a logistics officer. And he didn't want to be a logistician, and he ended up going on his first deployment as a logistics officer. And I remember talking to him every day, and his role there was helping play a role it was the first Iraqi election. And so he was playing a really significant role in that. But I had so much accessibility to him. I don't know what it was like when you were deployed, but like I literally could email him and he'd call me back. And I'm like, this is awesome. It's just like he's in Pendleton, right? He's just right there. But what he would always say to me on that deployment is, I'm bored. And I'd be like, I love that you're bored. Like, I love nothing more than you're bored. But he obviously hated it. So he came back from that first deployment and decided to enter into the 1st Recon Battalion, which was the most unsurprising thing ever.
Yeah.
Ended up deploying for a second time with a MIT team, helping to train the Iraqi army.
Right.
My dad warned my mom and I before that deployment that this deployment was going to look very, very different. And as soon as he left, we knew it was. Like communication was very limited. And he would send out group emails. I talked to him maybe just 2 or 3 times individually. The last time was the 2 weeks before he was killed. And it was that conversation he had said to me. I said, you're more than halfway done. And he was like, it doesn't matter. He's like, every day is a new day. Like, I'm not looking at it like that from that perspective, X, Y, and Z. And I got off that phone conversation. I was super unnerved by it because he just sounded so intense on that phone call. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later, he was killed. Yeah. April 29th, 2007.
And awarded the Silver Star. Was shot while rescuing a teammate from a kill zone.
Yeah, they were out on patrol, and one of his Marines was shot, and he exposed himself, pulled him back, and then his medic was shot, and he exposed himself again. And then I think, like, the way the citation reads, like, they were covered by, like, 3 positions, and the only option was for somebody to go out again. Travis did with his grenade launcher, and ended up getting it off, and pushed the enemy back, but was shot by a single bullet that, like, hit it, like, on his side plate right in his chest. And so he was the only member of his patrol that was killed. And, you know, I mean, there's nothing makes me prouder than reading the last line of his citation that says, like, his deliberate actions saved the lives of every member of his team. So
Travis's mantra was, if not me, then who? And it's a mantra that changed my life. And it's a mantra that I try to live by. And it's because of Travis and Travis's story. But can you share the story of, if not me, then who?
Yeah. So Travis was home before his second deployment. So again, we moved 1,000 different times, but my parents were both from the Philadelphia area. So when my dad left active duty, we came back to Philadelphia. And so that's like, Philadelphia is home to me, you know, like that's my hometown. We're diehard Eagles fans. And Travis had to go to an Eagles game before he left for Iraq. He was like, all right, see mom, see dad, see Ryan, go to Eagles game. So he went to an Eagles game. It was actually, I was just filming with the Eagles. It was December 4th of 2006. He left for his deployment on December 31st or December 26th, the day after Christmas. So, you know, 20 days prior, he's there, and he went with a bunch of friends, and they said that he was like, you know, when you're around Travis, he was the life of the party. He was super fun. Like we talk about Nick, like the introverted extrovert, like he was the extroverted extrovert. Like he could walk into any room and light it up. Like where you and I probably have to like try hard to be like, hey,
I can light it up, but then
I can light it up, but it's all fake.
Yeah,
like,
I can light it up, but then I have to take a nap afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah, social battery drain real quick. But he loved to have a good time. He loved to be around friends. So went to that game, and you know, they're eating cheesesteaks, drinking beers, smoking cigars. The Eagles won, of course. And they were leaving the game, and one of his friends turned to him, and he said, like, it was like weighing super heavy on his mind, because he's like, I'm just watching Travis, and I'm looking at him going, man, this sucks. He's leaving again, you know? And he jokingly said, hey, Trav, why don't I push you down the stairs? They like were about to walk down a flight of stairs. Why don't I push you down the stairs? Maybe you'll break your ankle. You won't have to go back to Iraq. And he said Travis, like, for the first time that entire night, got real serious. And he just looked at him and he was like, listen, if I don't go back to Iraq, then somebody much less prepared is going to go in my place. If not me, then who? And after he was killed, like, we started to look back on what those 5 words meant, right? And that was the first time anybody heard him say those 5 words. But I looked back over the course of his life, like talking to you about like how there was something a little different about him, right? Growing up. And I'm like, shit, he lived by those 5 words every single day. Like that was his mantra. And so it was the day of Travis's funeral. My dad had my mom and I come into my parents' bedroom, and my dad was like, listen, I don't know how we move forward. Like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. He's like, but I know that we have an obligation to live lives worthy of Travis's sacrifice. And like, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And so it was like that commitment in that room that day that we were going to take those 5 words and we were going to live by them. And, you know, we were going to try to bring other people in to do the same. Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
So with that mantra, you know, if not me, then who? And with that Gold Star family experience, Travis Manion Foundation was born, and you do so much for the Gold Star community. Can you tell us a bit about Travis Manion's mission and the programs that you have for the veteran community and the Gold Star community?
Yeah. So, you called me the founder when you introduced me. I'm not the founder.
Your father, right?
My mom.
Your mom.
Like, my mom founded the Travis Manion Foundation. And honestly, when she founded it and when she was like, I'm going to do this, my dad and I saw it as like somewhere to put her attention to after Travis was killed.
Yeah.
Like, I did not think it was going to be anything but something small in the Philadelphia area. Maybe she'd do some you see like memorial funds that start, right? I'm like, she'll do some scholarships in Philadelphia, work with the Naval Academy a little, but never did I imagine. And so when she filed her 501c3 paperwork, she was like, oh, this is the mission of the Travis Manion Foundation. And it was like, it read like, to provide support and resources to veterans and families of the fallen, and to also play a part in helping to create the next generation of leaders. And I'm like, that seems like a lot. I'm like, I don't know how you're gonna do all that. And I don't think she knew how she was going to do it all either, but she was a big visionary in that way. And so,
I mean, that vision encapsulates.
It does. It encapsulates what we're doing now.
It is Travis Manion.
I know. And my dad and I were kind of like, oh, we'll let her just do what she's doing, I look back on it, but so she started with like this idea of, when I talk about the Travis Manion Foundation, and I think you know this from being a part of what we do, like, it's very flipped in our model, right? Like, we're not giving out resources. We're not providing support programs to veterans. Like, our organization doesn't exist if veterans aren't running our programs.
Yeah.
So it's a very,
like actually being a part of the mission.
Yeah. So it's a different model than a traditional VSO. And when we opened our first office in Philadelphia and we started to talk about, like, you talk about Character Does Matter. Character Does Matter started because my brother's high school asked me to come and give a speech at the school about Travis. Because the principal was like, listen, I think it's important for the kids in this school to know Travis's story. And so I wrote a speech, and I had not done any public speaking really at that time, none. The only public speaking I ever done was giving a eulogy at my brother's funeral, right?
Yeah.
And so I wrote it like a 20-minute speech on Travis. I memorized every line, but the whole time I was writing it, it was supposed to be about Travis, right? But I felt like I could hear him in my head, like, stop talking about me. So I decided to like bring other examples in. So I was telling Travis's story, but then I'm like, I want to tell the story of some of his friends that did make it home. And then I started to dial down on like, what do I want these kids to learn? Well, I want them to learn about service. I want them to learn about leadership. I want them to learn about courage. And so my leadership example was actually George Washington. And so it was like, his greatest act of leadership is like, he retired back to Mount Vernon and let other people lead, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was practicing with my dad and I read the speech to him and he was like, that's really good. And he completely agreed with the idea of like, yeah, don't talk about Travis too much, And so he's like, I love that George Washington example. And he's like, it's what a great example of leadership. So I go and I give the speech. And after I gave the speech, the principal was like, I think this is a message that transcends just beyond the walls of this school. Would you be open to speaking to other schools if I talked to other principals? And I'm like, yeah, I really enjoyed this. And I said, but get some feedback from the students. Like, what did they like? What didn't they like? And a few days later, he came back to me. He's like, listen, of course, these kids want to hear Travis's story. They loved hearing about him. They loved hearing about his friends too, like other guys that he served with. And I'm like, anything they didn't like? And he was like, they didn't love the George Washington story, which I thought was like the mecca of everything I was saying. And I was like, really? And so what I recognized was that like our next generation is looking for relevant and relatable models. Like they want Nick standing in front of them saying, this is what I did, right? Like they're not going to relate to George Washington. They're going to hear that in their textbook and they should learn his story, but not from you and I walking in there and trying to be servant leaders.
Yeah.
And so that was how it all started. It was like, all right, well, I can't just go out and speak at a different school every day, right? And so I ended up calling one of Travis's friends because I had a bunch of schools lined up, and I called Josh Jabin, who's now our COO, and he was still an active duty Marine. And I was like, hey, you're from Jersey. This school wants me to speak there. I've got this PowerPoint presentation. Like, do me a solid because I got so much going on. Can you go give it? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So he went and delivered it. And then when he came back, he was like, that was so awesome. He's like, anytime you want me to do it, I'll go out and speak. And so I was like, ding, there it is. Like, we got to get veterans back into the classrooms, talking to kids, talking about their service and showing up and, you know, being given purposeful meaning again. And so it transcended from there. And that's where we built our curriculum. We started, I mean, you were probably one of our first trained CDM mentors in the nation.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a powerful experience because, you know, it started with Travis, George Washington. I didn't know that part of the story. But in giving this presentation to underprivileged youth, to youth groups, it gave the veteran mentors that were giving this presentation. So all of the CDM mentors are veterans, are Gold Star family members.
Correct.
And it gave us another mission, but it allowed us to. It's not just Travis. It's not just Brennan, but we were able to share the stories of our friends and, you know, that we lost, that are no longer with us, that embodied these aspects of character education and delivery. And so not only are we speaking to the next generation about what character looks like, but we're showing an example of that character in these fallen servicemen, men and women, in our friends. And we're being able to pass on their legacy and their story, and we're sharing that, and we're doing it together as a community. And it's just such a powerful way to be a part of another mission and veteran community, but it's also such a powerful healing tool. Yeah. Not only for us, but then to be able to share the legacy of those that we love so much. So Character Does Matter has been a life changer for me. But Travis Manion also does a ton and amazing work with the Gold Star community. Tell us a bit about what Travis Manion is doing for the Gold Star community.
Yeah, I think that, well, just to go back real quick to Character Does Matter.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories, Nick, is coming out to San Diego, because when they were like, listen, we're going to be delivering Character Does Matter on a Navy ship. And I'm like, that's cool as shit. I want to see that. And I remember coming out, you made me get on the flight simulator. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and you were like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, and I hated it. I
made you get on it with me. Yeah.
Yep. And then you ended up giving me a bunch of replica, like little antique. I don't know if you remember this, but you gave me all these antique like planes and kits for my son.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and I had them in a bag because he was so little at the time, and I had him in a bag for so long. And I just recently pulled them out, and I was like, hey, you're 11 years old now. Like, you can start putting this stuff together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I just had to make sure I shared that with you. But yeah, you know, again, I talk about how we differentiate in terms of the way we work with veterans. It's the same with Gold Star families. When we began as an organization, one of the first things we were doing was we didn't have all our programs in place. And so we were also investing in other organizations that were doing work. And we had paid for a conference for Gold Star families in Philadelphia because we wanted there to be a place for families in the Northeast region to come. And so we had found an organization that hosted these forums. And so we paid for this conference to come down for Gold Star families. And I went there with Amy Looney. And we were hosting like probably 100 Gold Star families in the Philadelphia area, and, you know, Jersey, New York, they all came down. And there was a woman, you know, there was a bunch of different sessions, but the pivotal moment was there was this woman that came in, and she was like a clinical psychologist, and she was delivering a session, and all we had done is fund it. So we didn't control any of the content, but of course we want to be there to see what's happening. And she walked into the room, and she had toilet paper purposefully like hanging out the back of her jeans, like all the way down. And she grabbed the toilet paper and she said, I carry this toilet paper with me all the time. You know why? Because I lost my son, And it's okay if you want to cry every day for the rest of your life. Like, what you have gone through is unimaginable. And it's okay if we need to cry every single day. And literally, Amy and I looked at each other at the same exact time and we're like, no, it's not. Like, that's not what Travis would have wanted. That's not what Brendan would have wanted. Like, that's not how we want to show up to the Gold Star community.
Yeah.
And so we came back and we're like, all right, how are we going to work with them? And so it's the same thing. It's a little bit different. And now they can be character does matter mentors, but we also do service expeditions with Gold Star families. So we take them all over the country and they're giving back and they're serving and they're transforming communities in honor of their loved ones. And I have found that through the Travis Manion Foundation, it's like the ultimate service expedition for me. Like, every day I get to wake up and give back in honor of my brother. So we wanted to make sure we were providing that same opportunity to other families of the fallen. And so we do 7 to 12 service expeditions a year with families of the fallen. They're week-long expeditions. And then we plug them back again when they get back from that. They go back into our chapters. They become Character Does Matter mentors. They are running service projects in their local communities. And just like our veterans, they're showing up as civic assets. So people aren't looking at them with pity, but looking at them with like such an intense amount of gratitude for the strength that they hold after losing their loved one, what they continue to go on and do.
I mean, they are carrying on that legacy. They're carrying on the memory, through service. And I think that's why, if not me, then who was such a strong impact in my life and changed my life so much. And, to our audience that are listening, whether you're a Gold Star family member, a veteran in the military, if not me, then who does not mean military service.
No.
In that moment when Travis spoke those words, he truly meant military service, but as a mantra and as a lifestyle, it doesn't mean military service. For our next generation of youth that are coming up, that we're sharing these character traits of our servicemen, like, you can be at service right now, at home. Like, you can be the change that you want to see. For our Gold Star family members, like, you can be of service. Like, if not you, then who?
Yeah.
You have to make that first step in being the change that you want to make in the community, in serving others and empowering the veteran community and growing that community. That's why those words are so strong and why they resonate with me. I remember when I became a Spartan ambassador, and it was after the Midway, and I got it's like a tile, but it's like a ceramic tile that was sent to me, and I got it put in a frame. And it's got the Spartan helmet, and it has those words, "If not me, then who?" And it hangs over my computer in my office, and I look at it every day. And those words are just so empowering. So thank you for making that happen for the veteran community. One of the big things that we focus on here on Operation Onward is the fact that the transition out of the military into civilian life is such a difficult transition for our military members and for our veterans who have gone through that. I would say, and we don't talk about it enough, but it is the same difficult transition for our Gold Star family members who have truly been a part of that lifestyle and a part of that community, and then are stripped away from that.
Yeah.
Why do you think, for our veterans specifically, and you work with them every day, why do you think that transition away from the military is so traumatic? And what do you feel that the military and VA could do better for our veteran community to mitigate that trauma?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like the transition. Nobody talks about Gold Star family transition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. I was a sister, so I didn't experience it in the same way that many of my friends who are spouses did, where, you're living on base. It's like, time to get off.
Yeah.
You don't live here anymore.
It's like the very next day, well, you're not welcome here anymore.
Yeah. And so I think that you can point to any single one thing, it's like, it's loss of identity, right? Like, your identity is totally different now. And how do you balance that? And how do you manage that? And, you know, at the Travis Manion Foundation, it's like, well, find a community. And so, you know, all of the different programs and different things that we do. But if I'm talking to anybody about like, what's the Travis Manion Foundation? It's a community. You know, you want to be a part of something that you're not going to feel that same loss of identity that you could if you were isolated and alone. Like, join us, because I guarantee you that your transition is going to be 100 times better if you're a part of this community. And I think when it pertains to the way our VA and, you know, our military is doing, like, they're not focused on the military. They're focused on war fighting, right?
Yeah.
You know, and as they should be. I'm not taking that away. But we got to make sure that we are following the lifespan of our veterans. And I can only speak to the Marine Corps. Well, I can speak to others, but I will say that the Marine Corps, be it as the fact that we're a Marine Corps family, but they have done a really tremendous job of helping to integrate TMF into active duty service members' lives. Most especially our current Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major Ruiz, is incredible. And he was less than 30 days into the job where he was already calling me to say, let's sit down, because I need to make sure that our active duty service members are being taken care of as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I'm just, it's been incredible in what we've been doing with them. I think the rest of the service branches need to follow suit, not just with TMF, but with like all the resources. Like, don't wait, right? Don't throw a TMF brochure in during the TAP program. You know, like, that's crazy.
When someone has like a week left in the door.
It's crazy. And they're not going to read it and they're not going to learn. Like, start having us implemented into what's happening, into their life. Because listen, we've got active duty service members that are CDM mentors that are out there delivering presentations. How cool is that? And ding, ding, don't we have a little bit of a recruiting crisis happening within our military?
Yeah, we do.
Well, hey, we've got a different option, and it's one that's actually working. So, so there's that. The VA, listen, I sat down I was at a roundtable discussion yesterday with the VA secretary,
Doug Collins. I have a lot of hope for him.
I do as well. And I said it today when I just spoke. Someone asked a specific question about the VA, and I said, I've had the opportunity to have several conversations with him now, and everything he's saying is what truly needs to happen.
Right.
And you can feel that he wants to make it happen, right? And it's not going to happen overnight, but I do believe there is a lot of authenticity in what he's saying and that he wants to make changes. Now, the biggest holdup, we know, and you know more than ever, is veterans should not be waiting 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. I'm sure
benefits.
You have incredible.
It took me a decade.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at all of the advanced technology that we have as a country. You look at everything that's happening. Like, we need to bring it into our government, and we need to make sure, because it's not a matter of if the benefits are there for them or not, but they shouldn't be waiting.
Right.
You should not be waiting a decade to receive the benefits that you deserve.
And the VA shouldn't be making it difficult for that process to take place, and for a veteran to get through that.
Yeah.
And that's where I have a lot of hope for Secretary Collins. Like, he really does. It does feel like he's hitting the nail on the head. Like, he's saying the right things. I'm a realist, and I realize that he's got 4 years to do a lot of work, and I believe that he's going to make a lot of strides to get there. But we need our future administrations to put the same value into veteran care and benefits that Secretary Collins is as well. So I agree with you 100%. I have a lot of hope there.
I do too. I remain optimistic. I keep saying that. I remain optimistic.
And what you had said about community, like in making finding a veteran community a part of the out processing from the military. Like, if they could integrate that, like the Marine Corps is integrating that with Travis Manion Foundation, that's huge. Like, when we're in the military, that community is forced on you.
Right.
Right. And yeah, like trauma bonded is becoming kind of a buzz phrase, but I can tell you, like, there are people that, like, if when I was in the military, I would have, punched them in the face. Like, I hated them. But if I saw them today, like, I would cry and give them a huge hug, and I would, and I would run into gunfire to help them.
Right.
But when we're in the military, that community is like forced on you.
Yeah.
And when you separate from the military, that's stripped away. And I do think that military members, in a way, forget how to advocate for themselves and fight for themselves, because so much of our training and so much of the process of becoming an effective military member is looking out for your brother and sister. It's being that battle buddy. It's being that person. It's fighting for that person next to you. It's laying down your life for a cause. And I do, I think that a big message that the veteran community needs to remember is that you have to fight for yourself. When you get out of the military, you have to fight to find that community again. But when you find that community, everything gets so much better.
Yeah.
And Travis Manion was that community for me, and made the process for me bearable. It surrounded me with people that I love to this day and that I care for, and that I would do the exact same thing for. I don't think there's anyone I would punch in the face.
I was just going to ask, who would you punch in the face?
I don't think I'd punch anybody in the face.
Good. That's good.
But it was that community for me.
Yeah.
And so whether it's Travis Manion Foundation or some of the amazing other veteran foundations out there, be a part of a community, but there is a place for you at Travis Manion Foundation. And I just wanted to share that story with our audience and with the world, because it's changed my life. If you could speak directly to our audience, which is primarily military and veterans, and I would love for the Gold Star community to also see this, but if you could speak directly to our audience with some words of guidance and wisdom on transitioning out of the military and finding that mission, what would that be?
Ooh. I think I just said it downstairs when I was speaking. Like, I look at my life in two parts. There was before April 29, 2007, and there was after. And so that was the moment for me, right? That knock on the door changed everything for me. And I think that our service members, though to a lesser degree, they experience that. It's like there's during military service and there's after. And one of the things that I don't think our service members fully appreciate while they're in is how hard it's going to be when they're out.
Yeah.
And I think they take for granted. I have seen some of the most highest ranking, accomplished service members struggle more than the private that was in for 4 years.
Yeah.
And they never thought that they were going to have any issues, right? And then it just hits them. And so I think it's like, how can we make sure that we don't say, hey, some of you are going to have trouble transitioning, as opposed to saying, hey, it's going to be really hard when you get out. Like, make no qualms about it. You're going to have trouble when you're transitioning. Yeah. Like, that is the reality, because what you did here was so important, and the community that we created for you was so important, and the brotherhood and sisterhood that you had here was so different than what it's like in the civilian world. Like, there's no way you're not going to have some challenges. So we're going to work with you now on what you need to do to face them when you get out. And, I mean, obviously it's going to sound commercially, but like, if you're a veteran out there and you're still in and you're looking for opportunity to find that community again, like, we're right here and we're all over the country and we exist. And I promise you that you come to one engagement or event or be a part of one program with Travis Manion Foundation, and it's going to make a big difference.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming in and being a part of this platform.
Yeah, thank you.
Allowing us to share your story and to share Travis's story, his memory, and to share what Travis Manion Foundation is doing to the world and to the veteran community. If you're not a part of the Travis Manion Foundation, connect with them, be a part of the Travis Manion Foundation. It will change your life. Ryan, I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too, Nick. Thank you.
All right.